time to listen to our first speaker. Joining us from Kiev, Ukraine, is Lilia Zinchenko. Lilia is a UX architect with Trinitix. I welcome Lilia to begin today's session. Over to you, Lilia.
Hi, everyone. So I'm grateful to be here. I will share my screens one moment. I suppose in a few seconds you will see my presentation. And yeah, would you share it? Thank you. And I believe I can do it like that. So, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am a UX architect and business analyst in Ukrainian company Trinetics. And before that, I was working as UX designer for more than 4 years. I was working at Stone Commerce. It's an international company that had a huge number of clients around the world. And it was my pleasure to start there as UX designer for the junior position. And during 3 years, I became a middle designer. After that, I went to maternity leave. And when I came back, I realized that I should move forward because e-commerce is almost the same throughout the sites. And when I searched for another position and another company, I believed that I could make my responsibilities wider. And after that, I've found this Ukrainian company Trinetics, who is working for the huge audit company. And there I implement myself not only as UX architect, I collect the requirements from business, I communicate with designers, and also I try to make the experience on our clients' sites as easy, as intuitive as possible. Could you please change the slide? Or I can do it myself. Okay. So I would like to tell how my path began. It began in 2013. I was new to IT domain at all because my background was as a humanity person. I've studied cultural studies in the university. But in 2013, my boyfriend provided me with one book and a program that was called Microsoft Expression Blend. It was some type of prototyping tool. I used it to create some very simple interfaces for the company video internet technologies. And after that, I've changed my UX interest to web design. And after some time of studying web design through books, courses, I found the possibility to be intern at Popple Interactive Agency. And there I've spent 1.5 months to create different types of design products. It was banners, landing pages, infographics, and other things. We were working for co-working center, and all of our tools that we created was used for this co-working center. And after that, I became like freelance designer. I was searched for the first client. It was a European client with some engineering domain. I've created for them their website, and it was a special experience because first of all, I was communicating with outside client, and it was interesting to work as a freelancer. But after 2.5 months, I was invited to the international company that I've told previously. So it was Astound Commerce, and I worked there from 2015 to 2019. And my first months was based on learning research reports from Baymard Institute and Nielsen Norman Group. They are the largest e-commerce research companies that is known worldwide, and there I understood that most best practices are used by huge companies that are known in the world. And I think that I've spent around 1 year to study all of those research reports that were available for us. And thanks to these reports, I've got a huge like knowledge in e-commerce at all. But also I've created like UX audits, prototypes for different clients, from small ones to huge. And when I went to my maternity leave, I came back only previous year 2021, 21st, and I realized that my career should progress. And when I found myself in Trinetics as business analyst and UX architect, I started to have more responsibilities as UX architect, because I tried to make all of those mock-ups that our designers created to become easier, more intuitive, and so on. And after these first 4 months, I can say that um, this UX architecture position is very responsible, but is very interesting too. And I would like to say that any woman can do the same as I did. Every woman can start as junior UX specialist and progress to some high-level positions like UX architecture, UX strategist, or experience lead, and so on. And I do believe that if you just try yourself, if you believe in yourself and do your best, you can do the same progress. And to make this huge progress, you just need to get interested in the domains that you're trying to use to create. And the main idea behind UX position is really understand your user, really understand how you can help them to make progress using your website or application. And I would like to share some recommendations based on my past, my experience. First of all, if you want to try yourself in e-commerce as I did, I would highly recommend to start with learning these research reports from Nielsen Norman Group and Baymard Institute, because they help you to understand how to create different pages, how to create forms, how to combine different elements just to make your interfaces as easy as possible. Second, I would suggest to pass some courses, for example, on Interaction Design Foundation. I passed around three courses there. One was about Gestalt psychology, and it helped me to understand what are the principles of this psychology, how to combine elements based on their color, their layout, their uh, different principles. And in this Interaction Design Foundation, you will find courses from well-known specialists. They create really great courses to study, and they try to make everything to let you become really good specialist in UX, and not only UX, interaction design also. As for the books that I was studied at my own pace, it was first of all The Elements of User Experience by Jesse James Garrett. This book provided me the knowledge that UX is not only creating the layout or structure of interface, but uh, it's a book about different layers of UX design. UX design includes both UI design, web design, interaction design, information architecture, and a lot of other domains that you can study, that you can dive deep into. And after that, you will understand whether you want to be a general UX designer, or you want to be an interaction designer or information architecture, and so on. Uh, Also, I've learned really great things from this book, The Principles of Beautiful Web Design by Jason Baer. And in this book, I found not only information that helped me to be a web designer, but here you will find some information about colors, typography, layouts, and so on that is also needed for UX designers and for UX architects. uh, this book helped me to understand the basics of web design, and then to combine different elements to communicate with designers, especially with UI designers. And I think that if you want to be a great UX designer, you should know web design also. As for the next book that I would suggest, that made me understand that the easiest and the best interface is the interface when you don't uh, make your user think. It's this book by Steve Krug, Don't Make Me Think. Uh, and after that book, I understood that my job is to make everything, not to make my user think around elements on a website or on application. And if you can create such interface, you is already the great designer. Because if you make users think, then you like make your user think around how to go, what to do, and everything else. And it's not the job for your user, it's your job. I would also recommend to study such design tools as Figma or Adobe XD Sketch, especially Figma. I'm using it for now. And it's one of the greatest instruments to create prototypes, to create hi-fi mockups. It's the tool that can allow you not only to prototype or to design interfaces, but it's a tool where you can communicate with your team. especially if you have development team, because in most cases, if you're a designer in international company, you will need to work with developers, with quality assurance specialists, with project managers, and this tool allow you to communicate with all of your team members. So try to study it, try to understand what is the best tool for you. When I've studied different instruments, it was Photoshop, Illustrator, and some other tools. But for now, we have possibility to work with Figma, Adobe XD, Sketch, and they are great, really great. I've also had experience to study at Coursera, and when I've studied UX design from Coursera, they had only a few courses regarding this topic. But for now, they have a really huge program called Google UX Design Professional Certificate. And there you have possibility not only to get knowledge, but also to earn a certificate that you can use to search for your first job to start as UX designer. So just try it. If you like it, I believe you will earn this certificate and will become a really great specialist in UX design. As for additional helpful tools that I would suggest to look at, it's the analytics tool, for example, Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics. For what reason you can use these analytics tools? Just to understand whether your design works. Because when you create some design that is not useful, that is hard to understand, it will not make you a great designer. And I would suggest that when you've created some website or created design for some website or application, just look at the analytics, look through all of those data that is provided by these tools, because there are different information that you can learn there. You can see what is your audience, from what countries, from what regions, how they use your site or application. And based on these analytics, you can change your designs, update your designs to make everything look better, work better, and really not make your users think. And I believe that the last but not least is watching through different examples. In one moment of my career, I've studied different websites, especially when working at Stone Commerce. I've looked through e-commerce sites from different brands and studied the best practices on their sites. I've also looked through those reports that I was studied, and understood that most of huge brands base their designs on these best practices. So try to watch huge number of design, not design, but huge brands, websites. For example, you know that one of the greatest brand is Nike. You try to look at their practices. How do they use design for their website? To look at those best practices and also collect them. You can collect best practices for different elements. For example, you can create some folders on your computer for e-commerce websites, for different applications, and just look through all of those practices that you can use for your job in future. And it will help you to make not only usable interfaces, but to combine different practices from different sites. and it will make your own power. So it's uh, it's everything I wanted to share with you today. I thank you for coming, and I would be thankful if you ask any questions based on my experience. So welcome if you have any questions.
Thank you, Lilia, for that amazing talk. So we have a few questions from the audience now. So the first question is, what would you recommend for beginners? How can a beginner start their career in UX?
I would suggest to pass some course. For example, I've provided you with a recommendation to Coursera, but there are a lot of different courses around the world, and I believe even in your native language, you can find some similar courses. But besides that, I would suggest to read some basic books that I've also provided, just to understand what is user experience, what are the elements of user experience, and to understand how you want to progress yourself. Do you want to become UX specialist? Do you want to become web design specialist? Or do you want to dive deep as information architecture then? So you just need to learn the courses, the books, and understand what is interesting for you. Because UX design in different companies can be not the same. In one company, you can create prototypes. In another company, you can create both prototypes and UI designs, like design mockups. So just try to understand what is yours, what do you want to do by yourself, what is interesting for you, and you will become UX specialist.
Great, thank you. So another question is about again the UX profession. So one of our audience members wants to know how encouraging the UX is as a profession in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, we have a lot of UX design positions, and UX design for now is very popular. Because when I started my career, it was in 2013. Not every company had such position in IT domain, and I try to think about more relative to UX design positions. That's why I've switched to web design, because web designers were more popular than UX designers. But for now, UX designers are almost in every IT company. And in Ukraine also, more Ukrainian companies understand that UX design is very important for them. And for me, it's happiness, because when you understand that more companies value your job, your final results, you can do better results for them.
I'm sorry about that. So
No.
the last question for you is: was it difficult for you to restart your design journey after your maternity leave? How did you catch up on advances in design and technology?
I think that the most difficult thing about after maternity leave is when you want to progress with your profession, but your little son has another priority. And you should combine your job with your maternity. And when I realized that I want to search for some UX job, I've sent my son to kindergarten, and after that, I could do everything I wanted. But for now, I have difficulty because there is war in our country, and I combine my job with my maternity, and it's difficult for some cases, but I combine it nevertheless.
Thank you, Lilia. We hope the situation in Ukraine gets better. We're all praying for you. Our good wishes are with you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Our second speaker today is Dhanashri Manohar. Dhanashri is joining us from Ahmedabad, India, and is a senior UX designer with Cloud Cover. So let's hear from Dhanashri. Over to you, Dhanashri.
Hello everyone. I'm Dhanashri Manohar, a user experience designer at CloudCover. So my journey in design has been very interesting till now. I initially started out as an architect, planning and designing spaces for users. Then I moved on to designing products by switching to industrial design. And now I have sort of settled into designing digital experiences for users to enjoy. So let me share my screen and I will walk you through my topic of the day. Today, I plan to talk about a design strategy which has helped me throughout my design journey. That is the North Star experience, or what I like to call as the big picture phase in design. So, for the agenda for the talk, I plan to walk you guys through what the North Star experience strategy is according to me, what is its purpose, and how to create and then use this model in your design journey. So you must be wondering, what is a North Star? Right? What is this experience strategy that you're talking about? So every great product starts with a vision in someone's head. It is like a little flicker of an idea, incomplete and in pieces, like remembering a few scattered scenes from last night's dream. But it is enough to intrigue you, to make your heart jump a beat, and for the mind to resolve that I must explore this further. Now, this vision can come from anyone, right? There isn't some rule that says that only CEOs or product people or designers or engineers or even say designated visionaries can come up with great ideas. That's not true. But having said that, it must be acknowledged that actually coming up with a compelling transformative vision is incredibly hard. Now, if you Google the term North Star, right, you will come across a long list of articles written by various professionals through their viewpoint and understanding of the terminology and its application. And today, I wish to present the way I understand and utilize it through a designer's lens. So, a North Star is not a spec or a roadmap or a detailed set of mocks. No. In fact, even if everybody is sold on a particular North Star vision, it is very dangerous to jump into working backwards to build the exact thing as presented. Instead, a better idea would be to start where things are now and you slowly work forward towards the North Star by mapping out a detailed execution plan that seeks to validate the most controversial parts of the vision first. The North Star is only meant to be like a guidepost, right? So, what eventually ends up being built and launched may not actually look or even function like the original vision, which is fine because things like execution details which you don't really focus on while working on the North Star, they need to be clearly thought out, thoroughly mapped, explored, and at some point in the actual building of the product they might vary or might sort of divert from the North Star. But if this is done correctly, the final output will have retained the spiritual soul of the original North Star and will have successfully delivered upon its promise of improving people's lives. So, what is the purpose of having a North Star? Right? A North Star is meant to get everyone on the same page about what the idea is and why it is exciting without focusing too much on specific execution details. Right? So, this sort of helps to set a stage on what everyone should expect the product to turn out. Now, a North Star should be inspiring. right? So hence North Stars generally benefit from being imagined as good ways, uh, way out in the future, say 6 months or a year or even longer. Now, by placing the narrative further out in time, you sort of free yourself of existing constraints so that the results can be bolder, more imaginative, and more impactful. A North Star also helps you align everyone's vision of the product in the long run. So, if you're working with, say, the product team, the development team, the design team, this will sort of help align everyone's vision. It makes sure that the team does not lose sight of the goal in the nitty gritty of everyday life, right? And the North Star, of course, should seem achievable and realistic, even if it's on a longer time horizon. The proposed idea shouldn't feel like science fiction, nor should the narrative feel like it doesn't ring true to people's real problems, desires, or habits. This is a very important point that we need to keep in mind. So now, after understanding what the North Star metric strategy is all about, the next question in your heads would be that how do I create this experience strategy, right? So I have illustrated the points to do so. So in the first step, you build or call on your support team, right? In this step, the first thing you do is you assemble a cast of characters who will help you form the narrative. So, if you're working on a problem statement by yourself, I would suggest that you consider those who think differently than you, people with a diversity of perspectives and backgrounds, which will help foster innovation. Consider how you will seek opinions outside of your own thinking to ensure that the best results are achieved and also to eliminate your personal biases. You need to be very intentional in this step, right? So if you're working in a large team, this is an opportunity for you to create allies in other functions and groups to secure buy-in of the end results. So the next step would be to understand the context. So before you begin imagining the future product experience, it is important that you fully understand and appreciate the context you are operating in, along with the associated constraints. You need to understand the domain, its functionality, the bridges, and the pitfalls. So, this step might also entail chalking out the business strategy that the product is designed to support. Along with the domain, you need to understand the people who form the domain, right? So, do a thorough user research, talk to people, pull up a focus group, keep getting back to them again and again with questions till you have all the data you need. Front loading of all this information can take a serious amount of time, but don't skimp over here. It's critical that your North Star experience be in lockstep with the users and business strategy in mind. Moving on, the third step would be to identify segments of opportunity. So, once you have the domain context, the user data, the business constraints in sight, you need to identify the opportunities ahead. Articulating the segments of opportunity means that you have made a decision about which specific customer needs are more important to solve, as well as which type of customers within the target market have the more acute need. These aren't the only needs your product will ultimately solve for, but starting here will ensure that you have a solid foundation as the customer needs you have chosen to focus on will form the core of your differentiation strategy. Choosing roughly three unmet needs at this point, and this is as a guideline, not a hard rule, is manageable and feeds well into your next steps ideation activities. The way we evaluate pain points and the importance of different needs are not always the same. Using methods such as factor analysis can help you determine a segmentation strategy that identifies the characteristics of an underserved segment. Generally, an underserved segment will have needs with high opportunity scores, right? So, these are the areas you need to focus on, which will help make your product stand apart from others in the market. Moving on, the next step would be to convert these opportunities into ideas or concepts. Now that you have clear segments of opportunities in your mind, it's time to start generating innovative ideas for these previously mentioned features, right? A double diamond design approach is a great way to explore on this step. So, this is your generic design process. So once you have concepts and ideas in hand, it's time to prototype, right? A rapid prototyping will enable you to test, learn, and reiterate on your concepts while keeping sight of the core vision established by you. While the team may be excited about this one set of ideas, it's important to understand how your vision and prototypes hold up with potential customers. So I would suggest that you, on the regular basis in the design journey, you go and identify the important things that you need to learn, gather information through direct interaction with your potential customers. Run as many of prototyping and testing cycle as your time allows. The more you learn, the more informed and therefore stable your North Star product experience will be. What's next after this? The common pitfall of North Star vision work is that it creates a big splash up front and then quickly fizzles out. Connecting your vision to stable research gives it a solid foundation, but follow through is equally important. A couple of pointers for how to follow through would look somewhat like this. So, you create a 1 year vision or plan with the product team. This will help you chart the path for your product for the near future. Build the ideal roadmap. Take your 1 year product and break it down into parts you'd need for building smaller milestones. Not every product feature will be necessary or feasible, but this will sort of give you a good starting point for planning, right? Confirm your plans through experimentation and learning. Your team should work through each meaningful feature with rapid experimentation and build sufficient confidence to keep moving forward. In conclusion, I would like to say that this strategy will help you and your team capture and encode the vision while taking care to preserve all the richness and wonder and awe so that the other person who can see it can also feel that jump in their heartbeats and the resolve in their mind. This is how a transformative idea builds from a flickering flame into a blazing sun, growing in its momentum and energy until it launches into the air and becomes a North Star. Its twinkling light, a guidepost for people inspired to take the idea and turn it into something real. Right? So that's it from my side. If you found this topic helpful or interesting, and if you ever want to discuss on this further, please feel free to reach out to me through email, or feel free to ping me on LinkedIn as well. If you found the topic interesting and would like to delve deeper and read a bit more about it, or if you wish to gain access to the tools and templates used by other designers in their North Star strategy explorations, please feel free to go to this link displayed on the screen. I have set up an exhaustive list of tools and articles for reference. I hope this will act as a helpful tool in your explorations and design journey, as it surely is for me. Thank you and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you for the wonderful talk, Dhanashri. Our audience has a few questions for you now, so let's go through them. How do you understand whether your roadmap is ideal? That's one of the questions we have.
Okay, the way that I see it is, as I mentioned, you work together in a team, right? So it's not only design driven, but it is also technology and business and sales driven. So if you have people from different domains, people who are good at sales, people who have business knowledge, people who have domain knowledge, and if you work together, the the way that your North Star will develop is that everyone will have their say in it and they will steer it in the right direction. So you'll come up with a North Star which is achievable, but at the same time satisfies everyone's needs and requirements, uh, including the support teams. And that is where I think you'll get an idea whether this is achievable or not, or whether the map is ideal or not.
Okay, thank you. One other question is, you mentioned earlier that the North Star vision needs to be achievable. So, do you think it's realistic to have a futures or a scenario thinking in this process?
The way that I see it is, so North Star is going to be like a guidepost to you, right? So it helps you project your vision maybe a year or two in the future. I would not suggest something which is sci-fi, which might be difficult to achieve, because it is then going to change the direction of the way that your product involves. If it's a sci-fi solution, you'll sort of tend to increase your technology, tend to give in more time to develop that, and it might not be achievable, and in the end, it fizzles out. So an achievable vision, keeping like maybe a year or two in the future, would help you come up with a viable MVP, as well as all the further versions that you develop for it.
Right. Okay. And one final question. So, what are some of the tools for creating a roadmap?
Yeah, so as I mentioned on the link, I have given an exhaustive list of resources. I also have a couple of tools. They're not tools exactly, they are more like charts which you can use to sort of build your roadmap, keeping all the everyone involved, get sort of like record of what they want to say as well, and come up
Okay.
with a viable roadmap. Yeah,
Great. Thank you so much, Dhanashri. It was great having you here.
same here.
So, our next speaker is Vishala Reddy Buyala. Based out of Hyderabad, India, Vishala is the founder and director of Millet Bank, an organization that formulates, brands, and markets millets and millet based value added products. So, join me in welcoming Vishala. Over to you, Vishala.
So yes, hello everyone. My name is Vishala. I am from Hyderabad, India. I have 15 years experience in tourism and hospitality industry. I am not a designer by profession or by education, but I'm just a passionate person and use a couple of design thinking concepts in bringing behavioral change and reviving public spaces or contributing to the society. So today I am going to share about design thinking and how we applied design thinking in a very remote village to revive nutrition and restoring traditional food cultures and empowering farmers, especially women farmers. So we named this session as designing for dry lands. You must be wondering what is a dry land. So if we take the agricultural landscape, so based on the rainfall, we segregate them to dry lands or wetlands or semi-arid regions. So the dry lands generally receive very less rainfall, and entire agriculture production depends on the rainfall and only during the monsoon seasons. So the rest of the seasons, people either they migrate to the cities or they go for some other professions, or they look after the cattle, or they just focus on the art and culture. So it's a very different cultural ecosystem, which actually I'm very passionate about, and I've grown up in this kind of culture. So I thought, like, why don't I share a couple of things that which I found and which I learned through my journey. So let me close my camera to you so that I can present my slides. So this is my favorite quote. We will be remembered only if we give our younger generation a prosperous and safe India resulting out of economic prosperity coupled with civilizational heritage. Dr. Abdul Kalam. So this is what I also believe in. It's not only the economic prosperity that we have to pass on to the younger generations, but also the civilizational heritage and the traditional knowledge and culture associated with that. So as I said, drylands are 68% of the Indian agriculture comes under dryland. The dryland contribute to 44% of the total food production and play a very critical role in India's food security and food sustainability. If you look, major part of the small and marginal farmers depend on the dryland regions for their livelihoods, and dryland regions also economically fragile regions, which are highly vulnerable for environmental stress, shocks, and drought. So the couple of the crops that from the dryland areas include millets, that is like eight plus varieties of millets, pulses, and oil seeds. And it is said to be believed that the millets are the oldest foods for the humankind, and they have 7,000 plus years old farm history. And millets are, though they look very small, we call it as miracle grains, small but mighty. They're powerhouse of nutrition, and they're drought resistant and climate friendly crops. Millets are not only good for people but also for the planet. So if you look at, for the thousands of farming communities in the dryland regions, millets are integral part of culture. It's not just food, but they are part of the life, which help to preserve local biodiversity and nutritional diversity and heritage for the decades. And then agriculture is generally, it is not something that which you learn in the colleges or which you learn from somebody, but it has to be passed on from the generation to generations. So the crop heritage and the seed knowledge and the culinary heritage has been passed from the generation to generations. But only due to the commercialization of agriculture, the entire ecosystem and the indigenous varieties of seeds and the knowledge associated with that has been destroyed. As a result, hundreds of birds and plant varieties also disappeared due to the ecological imbalance, which has become a threat not only for the human beings but also for the environment. So this is something which inspired me. I have grown up around this kind of earthen pots, which were part of my home and also in our village. So the farmers used to, they actually championed this. The grain storage, where they used to store these grains for years, at least 3 to 4 years, they were not spoiled. They created, this kind of structures to store variety of grains. So in my home itself, I used to observe like there were 20 plus grains, which were actually, which used to reflect the food diversity and nutritional diversity for us. So we used to get different kinds of, nutrients into, and then it used to keep us very healthy. But nowadays, that there are only 2 or 3 grains left. So I was feeling very bad, like, we lost the entire grain culture and heritage. And these are some kind of tools. Today we talk about innovation. Today we talk about user experience and design. But if you look at these kind of tools, they actually innovated this kind of very small but powerful tools for grain measurement and pounding and grinding, and people used to use that. Even today, that you can find these tools in some of the villages, but very 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 rare. So this is the village that I have grown up with, where I have actually learned a lot about the society and the culture and also agriculture. So during the COVID times, I went to my village and I had opportunity spent for 3 months. That is when I noticed lots of these small and marginal farmers who were growing millets were not at all getting any benefit. They don't know where to market, and even if they are marketing, they were not getting a fair market price, and they were not eating in their own families, and they were moving into a different monocropping. So I thought, why don't we do something that to remind them that our grain heritage and then grain culture through some innovative programs and interventions. So first thing I thought about, that we have to create a community place where farmers can come and meet with each other, and also younger generation also come, and then they can see how our forefathers used to farm and what kind of sustainable agriculture practices they were practicing, what kind of tools that they were using, so that they can also learn about it. So this is, we wanted to create an identity, and this is what something I thought. I've taken this inspiration from the earthen size pots which we used to have in the villages, and the millet bank logo was inspired by that. This was a symbol of food diversity, culinary diversity, and culinary heritage for us. So we have taken the colors also, earthen colors, and then we use this loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, means let the entire world be happy and healthy. And the hut shape was taken as an inspiration from the earthen size pots, which is actually a bank, reflects the bank where we store millets. This was an agricultural shed we used to have, like, for the last 15 years it was unused. And earlier we used to do some sericulture related work, but then after that we left that, and for the 15 years it was unused. And I wanted to set up the community center using this infrastructure. It was looking like this with the sericulture thing, and then we cleaned it up, and we involved lots of these villagers. So a couple of artisans that we went and spoke, they said, we left our like the basket weaving tradition or any other traditions, we left it 15 years or 20 years ago, because nobody was coming to buy, or no one coming to encourage us. So I told them that, whatever you create, I pay for that. And I got this twig baskets weaved for the community center. And also a couple of students were in the village who are, like, not having any work. So we told them, why don't you come and work for this center, so that we can transform this place and also put it for the use of the villagers. So like this, the traditional ways of doing a couple of agriculture related tools, and all these people were involved. And this is how the agricultural shed looked after 1 month. Like, it took like almost 30 to 40 days to transform this place from what it was to this. And we actually kept all the farm tools, and even the earthen size agricultural pots we collected from different places, and we kept it. And we used the twig baskets to hang lights. And this is the first farmer introduction program. The villagers came and the farmers came, and they were actually thrilled to see that how the agricultural shed was transformed into a art of state of the art kind of a facility, where we had digital screens, and we had, like, lots of lighting, and we had boards for writing, and all kinds of facilities. And one of the biggest challenge in this grains, the millets, is also consumer awareness. Not many people know what goes into it. Actually, these farmers do a favor by growing these grains. It takes a lot of effort, but they don't get fair market price. So we actually engaged a couple of artists to draw the millet farming, right from the land preparation to the seed sowing to the harvesting to the carrying the crop home and segregating grains, storage of grains. And after the storage, what happens when they have to again take the grains back and dry them, and look for the moisture levels, and then they use it by pounding or grinding in their food. So this takes about 9 to 10 steps from the seed sowing to the making a flour, or making broken millet rice or something like that. So we actually created this kind of art, and then we created awareness. We ran campaigns. And this is one of the campaign which we did, daughters of soil, because women play a major role and they don't get any recognition in the villages. So we thought, like, on the international national women's day, women farmers day, we have to do something for them. So we created a campaign called daughters of soil, and through art and portraits and stories, we engaged people. This is one of our value-added products, not just awareness. We also wanted to create market opportunity for them. So, just as grains, people, urban consumers won't buy. So we created this kind of a cookies and pastas and noodles, and this is our first value-added product packaging, which is actually, I was not very happy because of lots of plastic, but this was just a jugaad, the first set of packaging. And later we realized that we have to come up with some change in our design look, not compromising on the original thought process for the retail market. So we use the same hut symbol and also millet bank as it is, but created more friendlier version of the logo. And this is how our new packaging looks for the cookies and noodles. We've retained the same kind of values, and the education, education, we played a major, given a more importance. And also, like, we've created this campaign called I Am Millet Bank, where we featured the farmer stories, and then what is their experience has been, and then those stories that we disseminated through various digital marketing channels to create that, what why we have to grow millets, are the consumers, why they have to support millets. And also, millets are not easy grains as rice or a wheat. They are not the staple foods for a lot of people. Earlier it was staple, but for 50 years ago this entire culinary heritage has disappeared. So we wanted to create some kind of a positive experience for people to use it again. So along with the millet products, we also got this traditional indigenous toys related to farming, and then we started giving gift baskets. So once they, if they get raw grains, they don't know what to eat. So we kept our products and then started giving this to corporates and to the conferences, and people started liking them, and then they were coming back as consumers. So this is one of the experiential store that we wanted to do, wherein that we also create our products, but also the live food counters. So this design again inspired by the traditional storage structures. If you can see, this is our first sketch, and we are still working on it. And this is the inside store experience. So not just the awareness, but also we wanted to engage and consumers, and make them aware of that what goes into the millet farming through inspirational videos. And we wanted to make it very interesting. So this is one of the video that we created as a special campaigns called Daughters of Soil. I just want to play this video as well.
ब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्तं सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्तं सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्तं सुखिनो भवन्तु
Also not just sell the products, but also to showcase the culture associated with the millets and the effort that goes into it. And then in the urban scenario, we've created this kind of showcase demonstrations with the various varieties of millets and the process it goes on. We went to the conferences and conventions, and we displayed. We interacted with ambassadors, we interacted with corporate leaders about the need of supporting the small grains. And this is me, was in Dubai a couple of weeks back, and we presented Millet Bank story to the global audience, and also we had an opportunity to demonstrate our products and what we have done, our work in the in the Dubai Expo in India Pavilion. So we were very happy with the kind of response that we've received and the kind of love for the work that we have done. So that's all. Actually, I just wanted to show you that this little story of ours, and tell you that the assure you that even a small thought or small effort, if you actually it sometimes you can't even think that what kind of thought it is coming to your mind. So if you can give a shape to it, and if you can work towards it, or if you can engage your own communities, there is a magic that you can do. And that is what I wanted to share you, that how powerful design thinking and design application is. So thank you so much for this opportunity for UMO and Women in Design platform, and I look forward to interact with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inspiring us all, Vishala. Moving on to our final speaker today, we have Nuha Jafar. Tunisia-based Nuha is the founder of the UXers. So let's welcome Nuha to join us here. Let's hear it from Nuha.
Hello and welcome everyone in this event, Women in Design, and happy to join the celebration with Women in Design. And thank you very much for the invitation. And thank you also UX India. So I am Nuha Jafar. I'm the founder of the UXers and UX Design Trainer. I'm also a mentor at the Google for Startups Accelerator and trainer for the X Masterclass by Google. I'm also a Women Tech Makers Ambassador, the program to empower women in the field of tech. And with this, I'm also university teacher at the High School of Design in Tunis and Esprit. And I'm also doing some consultant work as lead UX design trainer in North Africa with Bamboo Geeks. Actually, I'm hearing two hats. The first one as a teacher and the second one as professional. So with the work as graphic designer, I learned and I practiced it a lot actually in my past. So I started my career in the digital world as a 3D artist in Digital Mania, which is a video game company. And I found it in this company that we can actually play while we are working. So the whole idea was that we can test our games and we can test other games of other companies. So with this, I added to my graphic design skills some other skills in creating digital work and prototypes to work on mobile applications and websites. So I learned it by practicing with video games, so I can work on mobile applications and websites. And later I discovered something with testing, and I learned how we can test, and we apply research and testing. So for me, testing were something fun, but I discovered later that also testing is a part of the user experience design, and how we can actually create feasible and pleasurable user experiences for our users. With all this, I want to share with you some of my experience in the design process, and how we can actually identify the methods and tools that we can use in real projects. And actually, I received some questions that when and what and how we can use the process, and when we can use this type of method, and why and how. So actually, I decided to divide those methods to create a workflow flow of work. So even in our company, we do this for our clients. By learning the design process that we all know, which is empathizing, defining, ideating, and prototyping, and even testing. And we all know that the whole UX design process is iterative. So we start by empathizing or doing research before empathizing to know more users, and define later their problems and their needs, and ideating solutions, and prototyping and testing again and again. But actually, this is how the design process is working in real life. So to avoid this, we worked on some tools, and to identify in every step the tools that we need to know more users, like the mind mapping, the affinity map, and defining user personas, the user journey map. Later, the define user needs and problems, so we can ideate user-centered designed solutions, and prototype and digital prototype, and then testing. And for all this, we can use some methods like observations, surveys, user interviews, focus groups, to know more our users, and to collect data about our users, quantitative and qualitative. And to know the market, we can do competitive analysis. With all this, actually doing the design process, we should know that we do have the UI design also part, which is talking about colors, shapes, images, and interactive design. So we can actually connect with the users and interact with them, so they can use our products. In the other side, actually, we are identifying types of projects. So the first step is learning the design process and knowing the methods and tools that we can use. And second, we should identify types of projects. So today we are going to discover some examples, and how we can actually adapt those methods and tools on some type of projects. First, I want to start with talking about startups. We all know that nowadays we do have many startups showing on everywhere on the world, and we are having new ideas, innovative ideas that are using maybe the design process or even not. So actually, startups need to have minimum viable product in a shorter time, and they don't have a lot of budget. And when they ask for UX designer, actually they're asking for the same UI person to do the design work. So actually, it's happening everywhere in the world, because there is missing of information, and there is not a lot of budget and time. So what we do recommend actually for this, we do know that the design process is maybe take time, and so we can work with those projects, we can actually define the user needs and problems, and so we can ideate solutions. And this is actually the main idea to work with innovative solutions. So we identified the problems, we found the solutions. So later, with the user experience designer, we can create the user flow, we can test it, we can validate it, and validate them, and creating the digital prototype with the whole work of user interface design, the logo, and the graphic elements. So all this we can work with continuous testing and validating in an agile mode. So we try to launch the product in between 3 and 4 months. So we try to take those methods quickly and to validate quickly in an agile mode, and or using the sprint design process. And with for startups, actually, we try to focus on both elements, a principal user need and the other side, the business need. And we all know that when we talk about user experience design, we try to avoid talking about the business goal. But in the same time, for startups, actually, we need to think about them, because for startups, we need to launch the MVP and test it and know if it's going to work or not, and improve again and iterate again and again. The second example is talking about companies, and there's a lot of companies that have many products, websites, mobile applications, and they want to improve them. So they ask for user experience designer actually to improve the existing products. So sometimes there is enough time, there is or the timeline is limited with the budget, and they ask also for UX/UI designer. And actually, for this, we do recommend to use a digital prototype or the final prototype to test it, to evaluate it with the usability test. And for the usability test, we do recommend that the UX designer do inspection methods with experimental methods. The inspection methods, the user experience designer can do it with just testing the website and just checking if there is problems of usability and content. And for the other side, for experimental methods, the user experience designer can identify some users between 5 and 8 and test with them and get feedbacks. And also with all this, the user experience designer will actually give some solutions that he can implement, or he can actually prototype and implement later. And for companies, actually, what we do recommend that the user experience design process they can work with, but with technical actually knowledge, defining objective key results and defining deliverables. So this is so important for companies to also know this, and even for user experience designer, that he know or she know how it's working. And there is another example for companies, which is companies with new ideas. They're having new ideas that are not launched yet. There is time and budget for this, and they ask sometimes for the same actually role, which is UX/UI designer. But here I think that those companies should know that the UX designer is different from the UI designer, and even the user experience researcher is doing a different work of the product designer. So actually, we should identify the role of each step and each method to use, so we can hire or we can just ask for the role that the company needs. And for this, what we do recommend that actually for companies that they apply some methods to collect data if there is new ideas, so they can actually know if the product is worth it or not, with observations, with surveys to collect quantitative data, with user interviews and focus groups also to know more about users, and competitive analysis to know more about the market if it's a new idea. And I think that for companies, they can have the budget for this. And we do recommend that they use the whole UX design process. So actually, with using other process like the lean startup, with experimenting, testing, learning, with the sprint design, with mapping, deciding, sketching, prototyping, and testing, and also with the agile scrum, which is planning, sprint review, and retrospectives. So in the whole this path, everything is iterative, and actually we do recommend that you work with OKRs, so you can define your milestones as a team. So as I mentioned always with everyone, that it's this work is for a whole team to divide and to decide together which is the best to create new products and new solutions, and implement them for sure with developers, which kind of coding we are going to use. And this is important also for the user experience designer, that he or she knows about coding, about the technology that they are going to use on solutions in the final step. So actually the whole recommendation that we can give, that start by learning the process and practice, so then you can decide what you can use and when. And this is why actually we talk about the user experience design process in the whole world, and there is a lot of techniques, there is a lot of methods and tools. So the first step, start by learning. The second step, start by practicing, even with new projects, challenges, boot camps, even hackathons, why not? So the first step, you will learn, you will actually challenge yourself and learn even with others if you practice with developers and other teams. And even you learn with experience. Even you fail in some way, it's not failure, but you are learning some experience. So this is why we actually working on this in North Africa, and we are doing our best to make it happen. So with user experience design, we are going through the community and we are trying to democratize it. So in Tunisia, in Africa, and in the worldwide. What we are doing that, we are working with doing user experience design thinking conferences and workshops. We did actually before COVID all over the world in person, and later we did online trainings and conferences all over the world, like we are doing today. So actually, when I come back to some years in 2018, we did many conferences, workshops, mentoring startups in the MENA region in Tunisia, and actually talking about user experience design and helping others, helping startups, and bringing them all together to work on innovative ideas. Practicing with them the user experience design, and even for us it was great way actually to know more about the methods, even how it works, and when we use our methods and tools, and when actually. And with this step, I started actually trying to give feedbacks about with which method we can use, and which step of the product life. So We are doing this also in the academic and professional fields. So we are listening to users and trainees, people we are doing trainings or mentoring. We are making it popular. We are experimenting methods and tools, and we are adapting and innovating in our methods of teaching or consulting or working with startups and companies. And this is why I launched actually the XS, which is training program with training program, a lab, and consulting. And with this, as if I were using the UX design process in the same thing. So I was actually observing some methods. I wanted to try them, so I listened to learners. I tried to identify their needs. I tried to create a content that fit their needs, and later I tried to create a content that is that can make them actually can learn the design in a better way. And with the lab and consulting, we are doing more research with the whole team and with our clients and startups. And we are targeting also children, students, and adults in this our path. We are actually creating new workshops for children to learn about the design process, to practice how it's working, to create innovative ideas so they can actually create the prototype of mobile applications or websites. They can create the prototypes of their solutions, and later actually they can pitch their ideas after 3 days of work. And then we did a lot of this workshop, and I think that we can do more and more because children are happy and even parents are happy of this result. And things that I'm loving too much and I love doing too much is going through the whole country here in Tunisia after actually the COVID. And I went to many regions to teach the user experience design, to teach how we can work with user needs and create prototypes on paper, and we can actually also create digital prototypes. And later students were actually pitching their ideas and with the whole process that they worked with. With all this, we also created some kind of boot camps and challenges. And for us, it was something challenging us actually, because all sorry, because our learners that come to us, actually they ask for how I can evaluate myself and how I can actually how I can actually show to people that I have a great work and I have a book. So I started thinking about why not starting a new way of challenges and boot camps. And this is why actually I started working with students so they can actually have new ideas, practicing user experience design to launch their ideas and pitch them with an incubator for students. And it was a great experience for us with the whole students and other teachers. And the other side, we actually created a kind of boot camps between students and startups. Actually, for startups, we know that they don't have the budget to hire profiles. On the other hand, we know that students want to work on their portfolio and to improve their career. So I thought about why not matching students with startups and bring them together to work in a few days to bring their prototypes to life and ideas to life. and it was an amazing experience. I want also to let everyone know that this is happening with a team of the Xers, which is 80% of women. Myself, Walid, Sarah, Aisha, and Rima. And we do have trainees who are future UXers. We do have Uns, Salsabil, Khmais, and Sarah. That I really thank too much for being here with us and believing in what we are doing and applying the whole process, even in our methodologies of improving our way of doing and thinking. So thank you everyone for the today's session. So it's time for Q&A, and you can find me on LinkedIn as Nuhay Jafar. So see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuha. That was a great session. So now it's time for our panel discussion. Our first three panelists are Nuha, Vishala, and Lilia. Our fourth panelist today is Rosina Spinoy. Rosina is a transdisciplinary designer based out of Brussels. Rosina is the managing director of the Belgium Design Council. This panel discussion will be moderated by Rohan Sridhar, the co-founder of Happening Design Studio. Happening is a new age global UX design and research studio based out of NYC and Hyderabad. So let's welcome our panelists and our moderator.
Thank you so much for the intros, and welcome you all to this amazing panel. I think we've had a great set of talks today, pretty interesting and pretty exciting stuff to be hearing from all of you. And this is the second WiDESIGN Fest that we are doing. So I'm pretty excited to see what shape this panel takes up. So I think for people who are probably joining in now, I would maybe ask you all to take a few seconds to introduce yourself quickly, maybe starting with Rosina.
Hi, everybody. It's lovely to be here. And yeah, it's good to be on the panel. And also, there were super presentations. So it's good to join in the discussion now. So I'm Rosina Spinoy. I'm based here in Brussels. And I've been here for around, just over 20 years. But as you hear, I'm also very Scottish because I'm born in Scotland. So I'm a design strategist and social entrepreneur. I'm the managing director of the Belgium Design Council. And also I run an NGO of Improvement Districts Belgium, which also works towards creating inclusive and sustainable communities. And that's with using design strategy. So work on various projects around gender equality and inclusion, around children and mental health and inclusive education, also within urban design and also participative design. So really co-designing with the communities. I'm also very fortunate to be one of the NGOs that was chosen to be a community partner of the new European Bauhaus. It's an initiative of the European Commission, which is all about creating inclusive, sustainable and beautiful communities. So good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosina. I think the UMO family is very familiar with you, and I think you're making quite a few appearances with us, so welcome again. Lilia, I would maybe ask you to talk about yourself quickly, please.
Okay, hi once more. As I said, I'm a business analyst and UX architect in Ukrainian company Trinetics, with experience of more than 4 years in e-commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. Vishala.
Hello everyone, I am founder of Millet Bank. I am based out of Hyderabad, India. And prior founding Millet Bank, I was into tourism and hospitality industry. I worked for 15 years into destination marketing, project management, and events design. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vishala. Noha, maybe I'd ask you to go next, please.
Thank you, Rohan. So I'm Moha from Tunisia, and I'm UX designer and university teacher, but I also teach children doing UX design. So I'm trying even to teach students and everyone who is actually loving this and want to do a new job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for those quick intros. So I think we have a wonderful opportunity here, and this is, of course, a celebration of women and their contribution, not just in design, but everywhere else around the globe. And hence, we are doing this series. So I would start by directly getting into addressing some challenges that we are facing right now. So the first challenge that comes up to me as a designer is hiring women at senior level. I find it, at least from my perspective and my experiences, that it is pretty challenging. And maybe I want to use this panel's ideas and explore and deep dwell into why there is not equal representation of women in design at senior levels. The floor is open. Anybody can pick that up.
Actually, I have an idea about this.
Please.
Maybe, yes, maybe because sometimes we think that women cannot handle technical things and they are more creative and artistic. So maybe doing technical things. But in my opinion, that user experience design, there is research, there is many fields. So we can actually act in the whole process with all methodology. And even that we are trying to hire more women. This is not this is not a choice, but I found more women in my community that interested. So I'm happy with this.
I think there's a problem in the mentality itself that people should not assume that women are not capable of handling technical roles. Is there a core problem in the society that we're looking at here?
Actually, I found this once when I were doing 3D graphic design. So in the company where I went, they thought that I was not capable to do 3D stuffs with the 3ds Max, but this was not real. I was technically and I could do graphic things. So I went through this actually once.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I think experience definitely shape us to become better at what we do. But I think anybody can jump up here to share your opinions and your perspectives, please.
I would like to add something. I think certainly here in the European side, I think there's we've got a long way to go. I think also globally on gender equality, which we know, of course, and if anything, I think COVID's only exacerbated that more so for women. And also, I think really, I would again talk from the European side. I think there's still a lot of systemic exclusion. I think there's a long way to go when it comes to, let alone gender equality, but also intersectionality. And by that, I mean the diversity within the diversity. And I think, there's a double, if not triple,
Correct.
I think hurdles to climb when you're a woman of color or you're Black. For example, if I just even given the creative and cultural industries examples, in the UK, the Royal Institute of British Architects, for example, has 1% of Black registered architects. Now, 1%, that's quite shocking. So I think when we look at the statistics overall, there's a long way to go. There was also a study done here in Belgium, and they said it was only 5% of leaders that were actually people of color, let alone women. So I think there's a long way to go overall, and I think we really need to. Yeah, we've got, as I say, a lot of work to do.
So, Rosine, ideas on how any measures that could be taken to improve the percentage or improve the gap, uh, not just for women, but also in terms of diversity?
I think in terms of diversity, and I think we also need men in this discussion very much. So we need the male leaders to be supporting women and
Correct.
girls, and also in an education level. We certainly, I think, for the creative industries, I think, it's a bigger discussion, I think, also regarding kind of redesigning our education systems to be, I think, future proof. And there, I think it's also looking at, encouraging the creative fields, and having mentors and people going into schools, people going into universities, which I think we see more and more now that design touches every single sector, whether it's finance, whether it's healthcare, whether it doesn't matter what it is. And I think people need to really still see the value of design. We're still having the same argument of trying to sell and educate the value of design at times, and I think we need to be able to move on from that. If anything, I think over these last years it's been an amazing. We've had so much publicity to do with design, because we need that flexibility. We need, user experience, customer experience, and so I think, it's a hard battle still. But and we need men to be part of the discussion as well, and men supporting women.
Absolutely, that's absolutely very true. I think we have a long way to go in terms of educating people about the value of design and promoting more and more people in leadership roles in design. I also want to pass on this question to Vishala and Lilia as well to get your perspectives on this, if any.
So I can say that not only in the leadership roles are in the corporates, but also there are lots of women in the micro entrepreneurial sector as well. And they're all very creative. In fact, women are very born creative, and they do lots of stuff very differently and creatively. So we need to encourage, and we need to give more and more platforms. Like if you look at, I hope Rosina also agrees because she's also into community campaigns. There are hundreds of community centers which are almost vacant and they're not even being used. So instead, you need to create more and more platforms for the students and for people who are passionate about design and passionate about creativity, and you create more community festivals and design weeks, and this kind of things we have to keep on doing it. And the community leadership, the community center organizers have to take this kind of ownership and make that happen. Yes, there is a challenge not just in design but in the other sector also. Women are being looked down, they are not technically qualified or anything. Yeah, this challenge is everywhere. But having said that, this kind of platforms like the design hubs, what you are doing now, this kind of awareness will definitely help.
Great. I think absolutely that's true. So, Vishal, I would want to maybe go a little bit deeper here. And I know you're an entrepreneur and you're doing so many things right now. So, I want to get your perspectives on how it is in India, especially to be a woman entrepreneur. Things are changing rapidly around us, but I want to hear your perspectives and challenges you face, people you look up to, and so on.
Actually, maybe I'm the wrong person because I never see a challenge as a challenge. I see everything as an opportunity, and then I break everything and then go ahead. So, yeah, having said that, it's not that easy for everyone else. People have lots of challenges. Either this is, you are a woman, why are you going and taking a risk? Why don't you stay at home? Or access to the finance. If you go and approach any investor, they say, like, oh, you can't maybe build this kind of business, or access to information, access to technology. So lots of challenges are there. But if a person, it's more of a person driven, and if a person is very confident, yes, I can do it, and they can do it, irrespective of what it is. So if everybody sees this as a challenge, you wouldn't have seen many women entrepreneurs today in Hyderabad itself. Suchitra Ellas, how she has built this covaxin company, isn't it? So there are many women who are very successful. So it's more personalized. And having said that, there are a lot of changes now. If you look at These incubators are opening everywhere. Government is coming up more programs, and the women role is being appreciated, and women are being supported. This kind of, there are awards being given, recognitions are being given. So there is a lot of opportunities if anybody wants to make their career. But one thing that they have to have in their mind is clarity. If they have clarity, and everything else will fall in place.
Absolutely, that's some great advice. And I think just throughout this discussion, I think we stumbled across quite a few gender stereotypes. Maybe I would want to dwell a little bit into that. I know we are moving very fast here. We just have a few minutes for this panel. I want to cover as much as possible. So,
Yeah.
talking about gender stereotypes, I think uh, there are quite a few established, and we've just, I think, directly or indirectly pointed at quite a few of them. So, if there is a case where somebody has to come across this unfortunate situation, how do they kind of defeat these stereotypes and create an environment that is gender neutral? Any thoughts on that?
Maybe I'll only go. So
Please, it's open.
it is very important to understand the challenge, where the challenge is coming from. Is it coming from you? Is it a perception that you have, or is it coming from your own family, or is it coming from your own society? And what kind of challenge is that? Is it related to finance, or is it related to idea, or is it related to motivation? So you need to identify the challenges, and I always tell people that you need to do your own SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So that is when you will realize, okay, this is where my strengths are, so I have to focus on this. So if you can get to that level, understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that will actually show you a better way. And also, you should have a couple of mentors. Having mentors is very, very important, and having attending to this kind of a sessions to get more information is very important. So first thing for me is to solve any challenge, or to break the stereotypes. You need to understand your strengths very well. So if you understand your strengths, and if you are able to show your dream to your family, yourself, and your community, definitely there will be a lot of support coming forward. But if you are confused in your own thing, and if you believe that I can't do anything, then obviously no one can come forward and help. So have the trust and confidence. That's it.
But I believe, stereotypes, I think what you said is absolutely true. But I think stereotypes that are established right now, fortunately or unfortunately, uh, I think it's a more of a behavioral thing, and it's deep rooted. So not just on an individual basis, but as a society or as a group of people, how do we change these mentalities or change these stereotypes so that things are much more better and much more neutral?
I can add, I mean, I think it's starting to change, but I think you're right about the stereotypes. I mean, there's not only the gender, there's also cultural stereotypes. I mean,
Correct.
I've also spoken to many women who say that, if they want to go into the creative or the cultural industries, it's not seen as being quite as professional or accredited as if you're doing accountancy, law, or becoming a dentist or doctor. I mean, it was only recently I spoke to somebody who's actually in the creative industries, but she felt the pressure to actually study law, do law, and then move into the creative industries. So there's a lot of different sort of barriers to break there as well. But I think, again, I think so much comes down to education, and having those, I think as Vishala said as well, having those mentors, having, the advocates and ambassadors for the creative and cultural industries to say, you may have studied, for example, I did interior architecture and design, but I've moved into urban planning and urban design with what I'm doing. That also there's a lot of transferable skills. And I think that's
Correct.
what creativity brings to the table, is this ability to think in innovative ways, to be creative and I think never more than now has it been so valuable for the global challenges that we have, that we need designers, we need creative thinkers. So I think that's really the aspect to sell, and hearing about the projects, the amazing projects that you've heard about. It's so inspiring.
Absolutely. Lilia and Noha, any thoughts on this?
I would share that maybe I'm fortunate to work in such companies where stereotypes for gender are less appropriate, because in previous company we had almost the same number of men and women, and that's why I believe that something changes in design, and most companies try to hire both women and men, and there is no stereotype that women are less like manageable or something like that. But it depends maybe on culture and on maybe companies' leadership. Because if leadership is adequate, then everything will be okay. And I think that more and more education should be among leaderships of these companies, where sometimes there is like lack opportunities for women. It's my opinion. Thank you.
Absolutely, very true. Noha, yes.
Thank you. Actually, I want to add something that actually I followed my dream doing design. In 2003, design was inexisting actually when I had to choose my what to do in university. I went to a new school in Tunis, in the capital. I left my parents' house and I had to move to another way. So the challenge I had actually, that my parents who would like to that I do medicine or something like this, something different from drawing or artistic things. But I had to show to all my family all days that it's worth it, that I can do it. So even my dad was saying that he will not find work, he will be actually lost, etc. But the first work I had was during my university studies. So this is impressive. So actually now I'm a university teacher in the same university where I did my studies. And actually I'm so happy with my students, trying to help them with to go with it. And things I want to share, that this field, design, is everywhere now. So this is it. So it makes me, yeah. And even I try to think in 10 years how it can be. So I advise everyone, try to think how things can be in 10 years and try to improve things and try to be actually innovative in this field. So this is it.
Great. I think that's a great response. Thank you. So I think we're about running out of time. So I want to maybe go to each one of you and maybe ask you to share a quick tip or a suggestion that you would give for women who are getting into design or getting into creative roles. Maybe starting with Rosina.
I think what I would say is, for anyone that's going into design now, is to attempt to have a little bit of the systemic vision and to think what impact you can create with design, and think of the bigger picture. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Great advice. Lilia, do you want to go next, please?
I would add that every woman who wants to enter design field should be enough courageous, because if we are courageous, then we can do everything. And I wish every woman to make everything possible in their situation, and it will do everything else. Thank you.
Be brave. Absolutely. Great advice. Vishala, I think you're on mute, Vishala.
Yeah, sorry. So keep learning and keep updating yourself with latest trends and technologies, and keep experimenting. Don't get hesitated what others will think about my design and all. Keep experimenting, and the practical application of design is very very important. You can't actually keep everything in your mind, but you have to create something and show it to the world. So that is what it is.
Great. Thank you. Noah, do you want to go?
Yes, so I advise everyone keep learning, keep practicing, and try to inspire. Everything is inspiring in this world, so even problems are inspiring to get solutions. So go for it.
Great. I think great advice from all of you, and I think it was a great session sharing knowledge. I hope people watching are definitely inspired and had some great takeaways. But thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences and spending time here at UMO Design's WiDESIGN Fest. And I hope to see you all soon again at the next WiDESIGN Fest. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to
Thank
you as
you.
well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
UMO Design presents